had 15 points alone. The Pacers scored 17 as a team here in that final frame. As we welcome you back inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse here, just after the conclusion of this pivotal Game 4. And Stephen A., you made quite the proclamation as fans started to stream out of this building.
Yes, I said that if the Pacers won this game, they're going to win the championship. If they lose, we're going to a Game 7, because I think both teams the rest of this way will protect their home court. That's what we're looking at right now. This is a big-time win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were down 10. They weren't moving the ball with any fluidity. Every single shot they were taking looked difficult and contested. Meanwhile, Indiana was playing within the flow of their offense. They were passing the ball. They were sharing with one another. The spacing was sublime. You looked at them and you said, damn, they're going to win this game. And then Shea Butter answered the call. Let's not forget Jayden Williams had 27, but Shea Butter did his thing down the stretch. OKC went on a 12-1 run to end the game in the final 2 minutes and 58 seconds. This series is tied. They're going back to OKC, and the Thunder officially have the momentum in their favor right now.
The MVP has 35 points in this game, and it felt like Mark Daigneault, he really preserved his star up until the end, because he looked so tired at the end of that fourth quarter in Game 3.
He did, but the trust, Malika, that he had in J-Dub and Jalen Williams, and Jay Will stepped up to the plate. First, second, third quarter, he held it down. SGA took him home. By the way, Pat McAfee and OKC, we don't need nobody on the mic to get them hyped. They gonna be hyped. That building is gonna be rocking. But let me say this.
It was rocking here too, to be fair.
But it was spectacular. Spectacular.
I love this crowd. But let me say this. I said before the game, this was a legacy moment for the Big Three. SGA, J-Dub, and Chet with a monster double-double, and that damn Swiss Army knife, Alex Caruso, will cut you everywhere but loose. He handled his damn business tonight.
Well, I think we saw Oklahoma City do what the Pacers did in Game 3. They took control in the fourth quarter. When the game was in the balance, we saw that vaunted Thunder defense step up. We saw the MVP do it. Honestly, we expect him to do in some ways, but he hadn't done it yet in this series. In that moment, he had not done it. He took over the game. For Oklahoma City to win this game and shoot 3 of 17 from 3,
there's a lot.
That's a lot.
That stat, you look at it, you just put that stat up and you go, did this team win or lose? They were 3 of 17 from 3. They lost. No chance they won. They won by what, 7 points?
Bob, we was talking, and I'm shooting this out there. It was a point in that third quarter where I thought Oklahoma City looked defeated.
Yes.
And I told Bob, Malika, Stephen, I said, I don't want to say that they quit, but they looked tired, they looked defeated, then all of a sudden, that spark, they just kept getting stops after stop after stop, but they grew up in front of our eyes.
Let's also give Coach Daigneault some credit, because ultimately near the end, you had Shea and Jalen Williams working off of one another, and I'm looking at them in that two-man game, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to see. Now you got options, and as a result, evidently Pat McAfee, I was right. I was right. He went on that loudspeaker and read it, said I was wrong. It's all fun. I love when he did that.
As we look ahead to Game 5, Bob, it felt like close games. They have behooved the Indiana Pacers up until this point. Maybe some momentum has been snatched back here by the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I'll tell you what, Malika, we can all acknowledge one thing. This thing's a lot closer than we thought it was going to be.
They come roaring back to grab this one again. It was a fantastic fourth quarter from the Thunder defense. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, some conversation with Tim Legler to come about the strategy, about how they used him and did not use him early, which allowed a bit more energy late. Some lockdown defense from the Thunder late. In a 95 all game with 5 to go, Tyrese Haliburton puts the Pacers back in front. This Thunder team on the other end, there's the length, the two bigs that started, and it shows itself here as they get a second crack at it, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ties it. Pacers again leading by 2. Haliburton, the scoop, and it's a 4-point lead. All night long, the Thunder struggled from 3. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had none. Give me all 3 of these, and now it's a 1-point game. Shai, under 2.5 to go, gets that tough baseline bucket. That number of steps had Pacers fans furious, as did the referees really all night long. That put the Thunder ahead. There were scrums and free throws and missed free throws. No more buckets made the rest of the way. that ever put the Pacers in front. And the Thunder, even this series. We welcome you to the Volkswagen post-game show alongside Tim Legler. I'm Scott Van Pelt, and here, Tim, we take notes all game long, and this was one of those nights that for the balance of this evening, it felt like we were going to be talking about the home team ahead 3-1 in this series. They had a 10-point lead late in the third. But Oklahoma City managed to stay in the fight, and when push came to shove, sometimes literally late, they had more and won. How?
I can't really put into words how improbable it is that we're going to a Game 5 tied at 2 with the way that this game was controlled by Indiana for the most part. Look at Oklahoma City's numbers tonight. They had 10 assists as a team. They made 3 threes, including a huge one, I think the biggest shot of the game, by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when he cut that lead from 4-1. Here's what happened at the end of this game. They showed up in a big way defensively. Chet Holmgren was sensational during a 3 or 4 possession stretch with his ability to use length to switch out and guard. So their defense showed up the way that we saw it basically all year, but had a very difficult time corralling Indiana all of Game 3, most of Game 4. When they needed it, they tightened up defensively, forced some really bad possessions out of Indiana, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had enough juice in the tank to make big shots. Like, yes, he shuffled his feet on that baseline drive. They missed a travel on that, but there's a number of travels missed throughout the game. There's no question about it. But he had more balance, and he had more energy at the end of this game to close the deal.
And let's go back to why. Because early on, as we're sitting here watching, you're like, wow, they took the ball out of his hands after the defensive intensity and pressure we saw from the Pacers in Game 3. It's Williams handling the ball quite a bit, and that was interesting. And do you think that the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't have to handle the ball all night allowed him to have more gas in the tank in those critical final few minutes?
There is no question about it. He barely brought the ball up at all in the first quarter, and we were kind of sitting there watching it, and it looked strange. He spent a lot of possessions off the ball, would go to the corners, come off stagger screen to get it later in the possession, but definitely expended a lot less energy advancing the ball up the floor over the first 3.5 quarters. So he had more when he needed it late. You know, that 3 that he hit, you talk about a guy being tired at the end of a game on a night when they could not make a 3-point shot to keep them in it. He hits the big 3. He hits a mid-range. He gets to the line when he has to. He played like an MVP offensively down the stretch, and their defense gave them a chance. I did think Indiana played with some hesitation offensively. You know, you get that way sometimes when you feel a game slipping away a little bit. There was a little bit of hesitancy out of that team offensively, and OKC typically feasts off that if they see you back on your heels.
Siakam didn't touch the ball. It felt like forever in the late game scenario, and part of that is the defense of the Thunder, certainly, but you just have to wonder how he doesn't at least get a touch from a guy that's got a length advantage on a lot of people and has shown the capability to take and make big shots. That felt like a miss.
Definitely, and he has, again, for their team, I think Pascal Siakam has the most favorable matchups, most trips up the floor, because he gets smaller guys on him. He can shoot over the top, get something quality when he needs it. Again, it felt very perimeter-based those last 3 or 4 possessions for Indiana. They were trying to get switches and beat guys downhill, but Chet Holmgren was keeping guards in front and using that length to deter anything in the paint.
All right, you know the drill, right?
Yeah. You got somebody waiting, I got to get out of here.
It's ball brotherhood.
Hand it off to this guy.
Some context on the Thunder squaring this series. It's the 14th victory of this postseason, which breaks the tie with the 2012 Thunder team that featured the young trio of superstars, Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, all of whom would eventually go on to win MVPs in this league. And they come from behind to do it. Their 4th double-digit comeback of this playoffs. Look, they've won by a ton in many, but they've shown some grit, and they had to stay in the fight in this one. It's a double-digit deficit which is erased. It's their best record in a single season in the last quarter century. One was a 29-point comeback against Memphis, and the good news for Oklahoma City in the last 15 seasons,